Okay, welcome back. This is class number 3, and today we are going to be dealing with operators. And under that, we're going to be dealing with comparison operators, logical operators, and if, else, if, and else loop. Then lastly, I'm going to give like a task to be finished or something like that. Give a task at the end of the class so that it help you to help you understand if you like it help you understand the concepts in detail so that you can like apply them and stuff. Okay. So let's just jump right into it. Just open your Visual Studio Code to open the last project we're working on. Okay, something else I was working on. Okay. Yeah, so you can also open this with live server. Just a continuation from what we have been doing. Okay, so now it is open and you can just toggle developer settings, everything. Yeah, so come back to our JavaScript and let's get started. Comparison operators. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with equality and comparison between two values. Let's start with let me just put all of them down. We have this. Okay, just give it start with examples. Um, okay, so just take note of what I'm doing. Okay, so we'll start. Let's just start with equality. Um, okay, so now we have about 7 test conditions for equality. Let's just say all of this is under equality. Yeah, so when let me remove this so that you see 1 is equals to 2. This is what we use to signify equals to. You can see double 2 equals to signs. This means that 1, as in you're asking whether 1, you're asking the console, or rather you're asking JavaScript whether 1 is equals to 2. And the result of this, if it is true, it will be saved to test1. If it is not true, it will still be saved to this value. So to get the results, to know whether 1 is equals to 2, you can just log test1. Yeah. So you can see now that test1 logs as false. 1 is equals to 2 is false. So for basic equality between any two types, you can see now that there are three signs here and 2 signs here. Let's just first deal with the 2 signs. The two signs is for a situation where you are not caring about the data types. You get, if you see that this is a number and this is also a number, so now you're comparing between a number and a number. You get, but if you are comparing between a number and a string. Say 1 is equals to 1. 1 is a number, 1 is a string. You get, so these are two different data types. Now if you ask whether 1 is equals to 1 with just two signs, see what it's going to tell us. True. But 1 is a string and the other is a number. You get, so the difference between 2 equals to signs and 3 equals to signs is that when you put 3, it is going to check for the data type, meaning that if this is a number and this is a string, they are not equal. So now in this scenario, when we come, we say it's false because 1 is a number. This is also 1, but it's a string. So when you put 3 equals to signs, it checks for the data type. But when you put only 2 equals to signs, it just checks whether it will shuffle the data types to see whether like this is 1 a number and this one is string. So it's going to give you true. But when you put 3, it's to give you false. So note 2 is for, we can work like it's equal for two different data types, but 3 equals to signs is to check to see whether the data types are the same. So that is why I used one like this. And just clear that. You can see, so now what will you predict that test 2 is going to be? 2 is equals to 2 with data type. Let's just see. If you didn't predict true, that means you should go and rewatch what I just explained now. Yeah. Okay, so this is not equals to, so you are saying 3 is not equals to 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So 3 is equals to 3, but you are saying it is not equals to, you are saying 3 is not equals to 3. You are asking JavaScript whether 3 is not equals to 1 plus 2, and that is definitely false. So let's see what it says. False, because when you add this is 3 and this is 3, so 3 is actually equals to 3, and you are saying 3 is not equals to 3, so that is false. Yeah, I know this can be quite confusing, but just try and understand that this is just for comparison between two objects. Okay, so now we see hello is equals to hello. These are two strings. This is with 2 equals to signs, meaning it's not going to check for the data type. So this is definitely going to give us, if you guess it right, true, because these are the same thing now. They have the same data type and they have the same distance. Okay, so I think we dealt with this earlier on. So I was trying to explain earlier on. And yeah, shouldn't have given this many examples. Okay, so that's for that we've done with equality. We are done with equality operators, and that deals with 2 equals to signs or 3 equals to signs. This only tests, this doesn't check for the data type, but this checks for the data type when they are 3. Okay. Now we can move on to the next comparison operator, which is greater or less than. Okay, so let's see something. Two random numbers. Let's say number 1 is 5, number 2 is 10. Yeah. So if you want to know whether 10 is greater than 5, we can say var test is equals to number 1 is greater than number 2. So is number 1 greater than number 2? This is false. So when we console the log it, we can see that that is false because number 1 is not greater than number 2. This is the greater than sign, as I assume we all know. Okay, so there is greater than, there is less than, and there is greater or less than and equal to. Okay, so let me give you an example. If both numbers were 5, you can say if number 1 is greater or equals to number 2. So because you see greater or equals to, so it is not greater but it's equals to, so that satisfies the condition, and when we check it we can see that it is true. Yeah. Okay, so it is, you cannot check between like a number and a string. It doesn't make any sense. So don't try doing that. Okay, if you want to compare this, like this five, well, this five is a string, so you cannot start comparing the which is greater between a string and a number. When you're using greater than, the check the data types. Okay, so that should do it for greater or less than. Then what next are we going to go through? Comparison. Yeah. Okay, so now let's deal with logical operators. And most of this is actually from your basic maths. If you did like computer and some stuff in like basic, it's the same commands. Okay, so we have and, we have or, yeah, we have and. Okay, this is and. In JavaScript, this is and this is or. So for instance, you want to say, we've not done if loops, we haven't done if conditions. We haven't done if conditions. Okay, let's just do this. A test is equals to true and false. Then let's just do var test 2 is equals to false, false and false. Then test 3 is equals to true or false, and test 4 is equals to false or false, or yeah, okay, there's no need for this, it's the same thing as test 3. Okay, so let me just log with those 3 conditions. Okay, so you can see false, false, true. So true and false will give false. As long as there is false in, let's just put it like this. It's almost like basic maths of like plus times minus. Yeah, so you know that plus times minus is minus. Comment this out. We know that plus times minus is minus. We know that plus times plus is plus. We know that minus times false and false, false, false and false. Okay, so the only one that doesn't satisfy this condition is negative and negative. Time minus and minus on normal math is meant to be plus, but here it is still negative. So okay, for something to be true, or is when it comes to and. Okay, let's say you're checking to see whether he's a boy and checking to see whether he's a boy over the age of 10, and let's say he's 11, so he's a boy over the age of 10. So if the first condition, he's a boy, is true, and the second condition, he's a boy over the age of 11, is false, that means the whole test is false, because like the two conditions have to be true for it to be true. So when it comes to and, as long as there's one that is false, it is false. If both of them are false, it is false. You get? So for a test to be true, both values have to be true. Yeah, and if one is false, like if one is false among them, then it is false. Okay, so for all, okay, so true or false. So meaning that, okay, let's say you have two conditions. He is either, you want to check for whether he's either a boy or if he's a boy over the age of 11. So as long as one is true, it's to carry that value that is true. You get? So as long as one is true here, it's to carry the value that is true. If both of them are false, false and false, it will give you false. So this is all. You're checking if this person is this thing or this person is this thing. if one of the condition meets the standard, it will carry that condition. Okay, so let me try and look for a situation. I know we dealt with objects, but let's give an object for a boy. We not go deep into this, but I think I gave basic this thing. Let's see, the boy's age is 11. The boy's height is 170, okay, 130 centimeters. Yeah. So now you make conditions for this boy, or you are looking for. Let's say there are multiple boys. This is one of the boys, but there are multiple boys in an array. Let's say there's an array like this, and there are boys, there are plenty boys like that. But let's just comment this out since we are not using that. So we pick one boy from that. We pick one boy from the array. Then we want to check now the first condition. We are looking for a boy that is above 10 and less than 130 centimeter in height. So to do that, we'll say var the test is equals to, then this boy now, we'll say boy dot age. This is how you access values within objects. We'll say boy dot age. Let me put this in a bracket. Boy dot age is greater than 10. So this to check whether the boy's age is greater than 10, and the boy's height in brackets so is less than 130. So this is the test now. This boy should satisfy because you see the boy is above 10, he's 11, and his height is less than 1. Okay, his height is actually 130, it's not less. So the condition is not going to go through because although the boy's age is well, the boy's height does not meet the criteria. So you can see false. This boy is not this thing because we are looking for less than 130 and the boy is exactly 130. Let's say the boy was 125 centimeter. See, now it is true because the boy meets those two standards. Okay, so let's say we are not looking for two standards, we're just looking for one. If the boy is above the age of 10 or the boy's height is this, we can change this to or. And because it satisfies one of them, let's see, even if his height is 150 now, because his age is above 10, it is still true because it satisfies one. Okay, so I think that does it for logical and comparisonal, yeah, operators. So lastly, we are going to be looking at if, else, if, and else. These are conditional loops. Okay, so for this we'll look for another object. Sorry, never name objects, like don't name variables names of data types, meaning you shouldn't name a variable like number because number is data type. You shouldn't also name a variable string or like boolean. Don't do that. I don't know if I forgot to mention that earlier. Okay, so we get a boy. We get his name Okonkwo. Then we get his age 25, and we get his height 170. Okay, so now we are dealing with if, else, and else if conditions. I think this is one of the things you use the most in your coding listing. Okay, so first of all, we are going to check. We are looking for a boy that is okay. We are looking for a boy that his name is Okonkwo. So to check whether this boy's name is Okonkwo, we can use a condition called if. So if, okay, let me rewrite the structure. Just give you the structure. This is how it runs. Okay, so the way this works is that you give the initial condition here, right? So let's say the initial condition is if this boy's name is Okonkwo. This is the initial condition. If this condition is met, this code here will run. So whatever is in this curly braces from here to here will run. Okay. If this condition is not met, it will go to the next condition, else if condition. Yeah. So if the boy's name is Okonkwo, if his age is greater than 20, it will run this piece of code here. Okay, you get me? If this condition is not met and this condition is met, it will run this here. Then if none of these two conditions is met, it will just run this last condition here. Okay, so if this first condition is met, none of these loops will ever run. No code inside, like no code inside here or here will run. But if this first if loop is checked and nothing works, it will come and try this one. If this one doesn't work, it will just run this else one. So another thing you need to notice is that you can add any number of else ifs. So you can say else if boy age is equals to this. You can add another else if boy dot height is greater than 160, something like that. So if these two conditions are not met, it will run this one. If this is not met, you can add another thing. Get to you can for this kind of situation, it must start with an if. You can have any number of else ifs, then it can end with an else. It must end with an else. Yeah, it must not, but like you put an else this thing else condition just in case it does not find any condition to run, then it will just run this else condition as like a last result. You get me? Okay, so I guess that's I think I made it quite straightforward. Yeah. So also if you don't want to add all these else ifs, you can just cut all of them out actually. You can just run only this. If this is this, run this, then you don't put an else loop, you don't put else if, you can do it just this way. This is the shortest, like you can add all that, you can add else if conditions, but if you don't want to add else if conditions, it will just check for this. If this doesn't meet the standard, it will not run it and it will just skip and come to this next line and continue doing whatever. Yeah. So that is the beauty of if else and else if conditions. So you try and create some and see. Okay, so I guess that is it. Let me try and replicate this. Try and replicate this. Or let me just use what was there before. So like task one will be to check if the boy is okay. Check if the boy is a teenager, log yes he is a teenager on the console if he is above okay else if he is above the age of 30 log he is an adult. If none of the conditions what's the next one are met, log no condition was met. Okay, so this is the task and it's like yeah, this is the take home assignment. So this is what you should try now because like the video is about to end. So on your own, just try and do this. Okay, so when you're done with this, now to you are going to try to apply everything I've taught since the beginning. You are going to I don't know how many people will be able to do this, but I'm going to teach it in the next class. I'm going to build this in the next class. But try and build a rock, paper, scissors game. Okay, let's say um the person one's choice is rock and person two's choice is paper. So the task two, all everything here is under task two. Let me just put this on top. Yeah. So the task two is that if this is like person one's choice and person two's choice, what you are going to do is that log who is the winner between these two people. Okay, so awesome. This is all we are doing. Rather, these are the tasks I'm leaving to you. The next this thing we'll just run through them. But if you understand this, that means at least I've taught you something reasonable and like you actually learned something. You built your first program and everything. So you do this and check your console to see whether like just log everything to the console and maybe you can submit your screenshots on the group or something like that. Okay, have a nice day.